Okay, year 11. So what we're doing now is statistics. We're looking at outliers. So we're on page 273. We're looking at week 1 for this term. You're supposed to copy the green box, study example 15, and do exercise on page 274, questions 1 and 3. So here we are. We have seen that outliers are extraordinary data that are separated from the main body of the data. A commonly used test to identify outliers involves the calculation of upper and lower boundaries. So how do we know if a number is low or really high? We use this formula. So what we need to do is find the upper quartile, which is quartile 3, and then we add 1.5 times the IQR for the upper boundary. Anything above that number, and it will be a outlier. Anything lower than this one will be an outlier. So if it is an outlier, you mark it with an asterisk on the box plot. And you can see down here, so they've got a box plot, but then they've got 2 asterisks. So they are actually outliers. It is possible to have more than one outlier. So here we've got an example. So see all these numbers. First thing you must do is put them in order, from smallest to largest. There are 20 of them. So to work out the median, it's just the number plus 1 divided by 2, and that will be the number that you need to find. So 20 plus 1 is 21, divided by 2 is 10.5. So you need to find the 10.5, which is in between 10 and 11. So the median is 8. And then you look at the lower half, find the median of that, which is quartile 1. Find the median of the upper half is quartile 3. So the 5 numbers you need for a box plot are minimum, quartile 1, median, quartile 3, and maximum. The IQR is the interquartile range, so the middle half. Q3 take Q1. So 10 take 6.5 is 3.5. So when you use this formula, you'll be using 3.5 for IQR. So upper boundary is the upper quartile, which is 10. Look up here, quartile 3 is 10. Add 1.5 times 3.5, because 3.5 is the IQR. On your calculator, do the multiplication first, then add the upper quartile, so it's 15.25. So any numbers on this list that are greater than 15.25 is an outlier. And then here, lower quartile is quartile 1, minus 1.5 times the IQR, and it ends up being 1.25. Any number below 1.25 is an outlier, and that number there is an outlier. So when you draw your box and whisker plot, 16 is an outlier, so that becomes an asterisk. 1 becomes an asterisk, and then your upper number is 14, your lower number is 3. So it goes, there's your whiskers, there's your box. Alright, we're going to do question 3 on the, question 2 about James and his bird watching. Alright, so James goes bird watching for 25 days. He, let's zoom in a bit. The number of birds he sees each day are all of those. Okay. Alright, so we're looking at number 2. James goes bird watching for 25 days. So what we're going to do is look at all the numbers, and there are 25 of them, so you need to put them in order from smallest to largest. Okay. Press pause and do that now. Okay, so here are our numbers from 3 to 22. So what you need to think about, there are 25. So you go 25 plus 1 divided by 2. So that will be 26 divided by 2. So it's going to be the 13th number will be the median. 13. So this one is our median. Then you look at the bottom half. So it will be 1, 2, 3. So we can go in. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it's this one. Okay, and then do the same thing here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So there we go. So we've broken it into quarters. This is quartile 1 and this is quartile 3. So checking out the question, A, find the median, lower quartile and upper quartile. So we've done that. Find the interquartile range of the data set. Find the lower and upper boundaries for outliers. Are there any outliers? And draw a box and whisker plot for the data. Okay, so A. So quartile 1 equals 8. Median equals 10. Quartile 3 equals 13. B. IQR. So it's the range from quartile 3 down to quartile 1. So you just subtract them. That's 5. So the middle 50% of the numbers are within 5. 13 to 8. So C. Now we need to know the lower boundary. And we need to know the upper boundary to see if these numbers are actually outliers. So lower boundary is quartile 1 minus 1.5 times IQR, whereas the upper boundary is quartile 3 plus 1.5 times the IQR. So quartile 1 is 8, quartile 3 is 13. Take away 1.5 times IQR, which, oops, I'll write 5, plus 1.5 times 5. So like I said, we do the multiplication first, so 1.5 times 5 is 7.5. So 8 take 7.5, 13 add 7.5. So this is 0.5, and this is 20.5. So now, are there any numbers below 0.5? Are there any numbers above 20.5? So D, outliers, none below 0.5, but 22 is above 20.5. So therefore, 22 is an outlier. And then the next bit we do is draw a box plot. So draw a scale first. Okay, so I just drew a scale. I started at 0, went to 24. Now what we need to do is plot our Q1, which is 8, with a dot. Median is 10, put another dot. Q3 is 13, put a dot. And then our boundaries are really now 3 and 18, because 22 is actually an asterisk, because that's an outline. So the box is Q1 to Q3. So we draw this as a box. The median is in the middle, so that's a line. Your whisker goes from 3 to 8, and then 10 to 13 to 18, and then the asterisks. So that one is your outlier. Now you guys try exercise 9H3 question 1 and question 3.